Now, here's another part about this. The business empire built by Dolly Parton, our friend Doug Flynn from Flynn Zito Capital Management joins us multiple times each week to talk about the business world and the markets. Today, he's joining us to remember Dolly Parton, and, you know, it's actually a big part, Doug, of her legacy. This empire that she built in business, right? What stands out to you?
Yeah, one of my favorite stories about her is it actually has a great financial lesson behind it. And what it is we know she wrote "I Will Always Love You," and Elvis had actually wanted to sing that. But Elvis's manager wanted her to give up half of her publishing rights for him to sing it. So even though she really wanted him to sing it, she refused. And so you fast forward to when Whitney Houston did that song, Dolly still owned 100% of those publishing rights. And the lesson there is really that she understood that income is one thing, but ownership is really what creates wealth. And through that, you know, owning her publishing and through other savvy business decisions, she amassed what I think is about $500 million in net worth.
Yeah, we were drawing a line between her and Taylor Swift with the USA Today reporter last hour, and that's another way to do it. Ownership rights, net worth. I see an estimate here, actually. This is Forbes, 450 million, all right?
Yeah.
And then it says roughly 650 million in more recent estimates than that, because the Forbes one goes back a year. So you might be right. It might be, you know, over $500 million. But that was built in a lot of, you know, the Dollywood stuff. There was a lot there, and there was a lot also given away. So it does prove you can do both. But there's an acumen that has to go along with that.
It does.
She had to have a sense throughout her career.
Yeah, you know, I think we all know perhaps good doctors or even good lawyers who are great at their craft, but aren't very good business people. And she really did both of those things. She did what we know about her really well, but then she did really great business deals. And one of them is in Dollywood. You know, most celebrities will just license their name. Yeah. She partnered to own that. And so those are some key things. And then, of course, all the philanthropy that we know she did. And that's really the lesson there, is that she was able to catapult those ownership stakes into something that obviously was worth whatever amount you want to look at. But the really interesting thing now is going to be what we see happens with her estate, because she didn't have kids, and obviously philanthropy is really important to her. But I think just in the planning of how good a job she did with owning her publishing and building a great business and a great brand, and the philanthropy and all of that puts it together, is now how did she handle the distribution of those assets, because that substantial amount, and with no kids, we'll see how she does it.
That's another interesting point. And I don't want to make this like, you know, personal finance 101 necessarily, but I do think that you're hitting on something here that you and I have talked about in other segments that's really important. Like, if you're someone as famous as Taylor Swift or, of course, Dolly Parton, you can do a concert and they're going to pay a ton of money to do the concert. But you're saying the real way to not only be rich, but be wealthy in this country, if you want to build something, is to own it. You got to own it.
You got to own it. She made $10 million off of Whitney Houston's version of the song by owning that song, and she owned all her songs. And so her collection of hits is estimated at 120 million by itself, and that's because she owned it. She didn't give that away. So you know, yes, you can make money on the residuals, and that's fine, but ownership is the key. And the same thing applies to whether it's personal. You know, everyone's focused on I have to make money. Well, you also want to make money by owning other things, because you can only physically make so much while you're awake. You have to own something that will also generate some income. And that's what Dolly did really well in blending that together and really pulling us all together. It's really a great lesson. I don't think enough people are looking at just what a great businesswoman she was in pulling this all together as she did.
It helps build her legacy, but it also helps to add to another important part of her legacy, which we've talked about, and that's the generosity. All the money that she gave away, the foundation work, when there was a disaster, when she stepped in, like we have. I think this is the clip that we're going to play now, Hurricane Helene, for example, and what she did. But let's listen again to Dolly Parton in her own words, and it's a good way of remembering her today, I think. Here it is. Do we not?
I remember that, and only Dolly could have done this. She managed to arrange a number of cable networks to simulcast a telethon. She picked up the phone. She has a mighty massive and impressive Rolodex. She called a number of her country fans. Obviously, she had the Hollywood connection, so she called a number of her A-list Hollywood friends. And her goal was to basically give every single person that applied for that aid a check for $1,000. And they pulled that off.
So in that case, it was the wildfires that's a guy by the name of Rowdy, who's one of the radio DJs that we talked about her earlier. As I said, Hurricane Helene was another time that she helped out.
Yeah.
And then finally, and we went through the numbers on this last hour. This would be the other thing I played. This is Dolly in her own words talking about something else that was very, very important: literacy, libraries.
Yes.
Here's Dolly Parton.
Of course, I want to be known as a songwriter and a singer, but I can honestly say that the Imagination Library has meant as much, if not more, to me than nearly anything that I've ever done. Certainly anything that I do in my charity work.
It's spectacular foundation, giving out these free books to so many children. So final point, Doug, is this, is like we could talk about this with any business luminary that we've covered over the years, and I think Dolly Parton's in that class, is that you make so much, you own what you make, and then you can help other people, and she certainly did that too.
She did with the Imagination Library. That's key. She also had the Dollywood Foundation and then all of these individual things that she did. And absolutely, how much money does anybody really need? It's not about that. It's now that whatever you've created, now you have some control over what you're going to do with it, and you're going to help the things that are near and dear to you. And it's going to be really great to see what her plan was, because it's not public, and with no kids, it's not going to kids. So it's going to be really interesting, and I think she's going to do a lot more of what she was already near and dear to her.
Probably will. A lot already done in her 80 years on Earth, and there could be a legacy of that continues and almost certainly will now that she's left us at the age of 80. Doug, thank you. Doug Flynn, very interesting perspective on Dolly Parton today, again, dead at the age of 80 in our country.